I saw a cigarette butt staring back at me.
And this could be the killer's cigarette.
Your DNA ended up in that car.
That's interesting.
I asked the coworkers who worked with him, can you tell me if you recognize anybody on this video? And they said, yeah, it's Donald.
You're saying that's not you?
That is definitely not me.
If he's telling the truth, which one of the two people is on the video?
Oh no, I'm not going to implicate nobody else in no crime.
I was asking her who did this to her, but I didn't get any response. She was completely unconscious.
Janai was a fun, loving person.
I couldn't imagine anyone who would want to hurt her.
This is a difficult moment. I understand.
We were still waiting on him to figure out what he wanted to do.
Do you know where he's staying?
Nah, I guess he's going to be the suspect.
No, I need to talk to him.
We gotta go in that mall and the lady just got shot.
Where at it? Go to that place mall. Yeah.
Where the bus station's at.
Is she breathing, conscious and alert?
Yeah, she moving a little.
Did you see where the person is that did it?
Yeah, he was in a car, but he pulled off. Like, it was like a beige car.
On that Friday night, I was performing an area check in that mall when the call came in of a person shot. So as I got out of my car and I began walking up, she was lying face down, and then that's when I rolled her over and located a single gunshot wound that went through her left breast. From my prior medical training, the first thing I did is cover the wound. At the same time, the med unit started to pull up. We taped my glove down to the chest to try and keep the wound stabilized, and then she went over to the hospital. But I found out that she had died that night.
My phone rang and they said, hey, we need you out at 3492 Satellite Boulevard. We got a homicide. The supervisor had said, when the victim's at the hospital, she was a 40-year-old black female in very good physical shape and no identification on her. The first witnesses, all they could provide us was just maybe a gold-colored car. But the bus driver, Miss Owens, she saw a male walk around to the driver's side of the vehicle, call her a mother, and then heard a gunshot. She was then pulled out of the vehicle, fell to the ground. He then got in the car and drove away. She said it was a black male. She said he was wearing white with green over top. Initially, I thought it might have been a domestic related, but as we're processing the scene, we're realizing without the victim, we can't even begin to find out who might want to harm her. Late in the evening, approximately 1:30 in the morning, I contacted the operator to see if there's any missing persons meeting the physical description and characteristics of our victim. And about 2 hours later, I get a phone call from radio saying we have a woman, Camilla Coleman's reporting that her sister Janai's missing. She meets the physical description. I thought it was a very good chance that this could be our victim. I started driving to Camilla Coleman's house. At this point in time, it's 4-something a.m. I'm starting to figure out what information do I need to get from her. And at the same time, I'm thinking I might have to do a death notification.
On the evening of the 18th, around 11, I got a call from Adriana asking where her mother was because she wasn't there to pick her up. And I was like, well, she's not here either. And all of our calls were going to the voicemail. Janai was pretty much a stickler to a routine. So to not hear from her at all, that was unusual. I called the non-emergency police number to see if, they knew of anything that had happened. I heard from the detectives around 4 that morning. A feeling that I had, it was just, something's wrong, something's wrong, something's wrong. Detective Cruz goes over questions with me, asking if she had distinguishing marks on her body, and I kind of thought that was weird, but I kind of had an idea as well.
I remember looking at the refrigerator and there was a picture of Janai there, and from the photo I had from the hospital, I was pretty certain it was her. And now is the delicate balance between investigation and notification. She's going to be so distraught and upset that she won't be able to give me anything, which I need to solve her sister's murder. So I start off with saying, you reported her missing. What kind of vehicle did she have? She told me. Do you have the VIN number? Yes. Once she gave me some information, I had to show her the photograph from the hospital.
and it was her picture on the table. So I asked, is she okay? And they were like, no, she's not. I just stopped everything. I picked back up the phone and I called my sister and I told her, she is gone. And I said, you're gonna have to call Mom because I'm not calling her.
Janai was a very fun, energetic, loving person. She was the type of person that would literally give you the clothes off of her back.
She was an encourager, she was a mother figure, she was a counselor.
Janai worked as an elementary school teacher, and she decided to become a foster parent.
For her to adopt the 3 girls that she did, I wasn't surprised. She was always wanting to, help girls be better.
She was a very precious, much loved person.
At this point in time, I know I've identified my victim. I know my crime scene is mobile, but I still don't know where it is. So I had another detective contact an operator, upload me the VIN number, then had to put it on the system. There was approximately an hour later, I get a call and he says, hey, we found your car. That vehicle was dumped the night of the murder in Forest Park, Georgia. And we went out there. When we first saw the vehicle, I'm ecstatic because now I have a lead, I have evidence, I have a scene. So I just took several photographs of the scene and the vehicle where it laid in place. We took the vehicle to controlled secure environment at Gwinnett County Police Headquarters. Meanwhile, I spoke with Janai's family members. And the family told me Janai Coleman was a hardworking, loving mother. She loved to be in the church. She even served in the military. She didn't have any enemies.
While the detectives were asking questions, trying to figure out who did this and why, my answer to all of that was I couldn't imagine anyone who would want to hurt her.
So the only nugget I have, honestly, right now is the vehicle. And so I'm wondering, what has crime scene come up with?
Processing the exterior for fingerprints. We find fingerprints located on the door frame. And then I'm doing my interior photos. My camera actually flashed. I saw a cigarette butt staring back at me.
So I contacted Camille. I said, hey, does Janai smoke? And she's like, absolutely not. And so I was like, wow, this could be my killer's DNA. I'm screaming out to guys over my cubicle, I got a hit.
We talked amongst ourselves, is the name significant to you? The answer was no.
My DNA couldn't have been in that car because I've never been in that car.
Which one of the 2 people is on the video? I know it's one of them. Which one?
I told the guys, the way he's talking, we may have the wrong guy.
Janai was sitting in her car when somebody shot her in the chest, pulled her out of the car, and drove away.
The only nugget I have, honestly, right now is the vehicle.
I'm doing my interior photos. I saw a cigarette butt staring back at me.
This could be the killer's DNA.
We submit the sample to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. Our results may take 6 months, it may take years. It's just the backlog.
The cigarette butt very well could be the killer's. I said, now I gotta wait on the lab. At this point in the investigation, I know I have my one scene where Janai was shot, and then I have where the vehicle was recovered in Forest Park. I've also got the physical description. And so what I'm doing is I'm looking through surveillance video from any store in and around that area where the murder occurred. It's kind of like fishing for a needle in a haystack. I'm just looking for hours and hours of different video. But then I found surveillance video from a gas station across the street. I start watching it for an hour or 2 before the incident. And I see a guy come in. And he's wearing a black baseball cap. He's on a cell phone. He's wearing the old softball shirts, it's white on the front and it's got green sleeves. And he's carrying a duffel bag. I'm thinking, Guy looks a lot like the description that was provided. I was like, that's interesting. Let's see what he does. Goes back outside, comes back in.
Welcome back.
Buys a pack of cigarettes.
Bronson Light Longs.
Bronson Light Longs. So at this point, I'm thinking about the cigarette butt that we had recovered from the vehicle. So I reach out to specialist Brittany Barrington, and she sends me a picture of the filter. And then I'm pulling up the filter online, and the filter for the Bronson Light Longs looked like the one that we had a photograph of that was recovered inside the vehicle. I was really excited because I thought this could be my guy. And now I want to look at all the video, right? I'm watching video everywhere. So I pull up the Forest Park video that the Forest Park Police Department provided me. It's Chinagate. It's a restaurant directly next to where the car was dumped. And I'm watching it, and it must have been a fraction of a second, maybe a second. Goes up and comes off. Well, that looked weird. So I rewind it and I pause it. And it is the guy from the convenience store wearing a black duffel bag with a white shirt with green sleeves with khaki pants, not 15 feet from where the car was dumped. And I'm like, that's not a coincidence. This is my guy. I mean, this could be the guy who committed my murder. And so now I'm excited. Now I'm thinking somebody's got to know who this guy is.
Detective Cruz put someone that fit the same description at the time of the murder here in Gwinnett County, as well as down in Forest Park where her car was located. The problem was identifying who that person was on the video.
And so at this point, I've talked to everybody who knows her. I followed up on all the phone records that were provided in her phone records. I've got cell phone tower dumps for where the scene in Gwinnett is and for Forest Park, but I can't compare them to anything. I've got all the surveillance video I could possibly collect from both locations, but I still don't know who this guy is. So I'm pretty much stuck until I can get something from DNA.
Time went by, but somewhere still lingering was just the hope that Janai's case would be solved. Within, you're like, if this case goes unsolved, there's gonna be one more murderer walking loose. So it was hard to wait on whose DNA was on that cigarette butt.
About a year after the incident, the picture of the suspect was produced to the public. And we were hoping, beyond hope, that they'd be flooded with information, but unfortunately, no leads came in whatsoever.
And for a moment, you say, okay, well, maybe this crime is not gonna get solved. But until then, you continue to live. We just kept the faith. We just continued to pray and believe that something's good gonna come out of this.
A month after the murder, in December of 2008, I got a hit that they did identify that there was male DNA on the cigarette butt. So now we've got to get this DNA uploaded to CODIS, the Combined DNA Index System. And basically all it is everybody who is convicted of a felony, their DNA is uploaded onto that system. And what happens is it's cross-referenced, and then hopefully we can identify a possible suspect. I was definitely nervous, thinking, what if the DNA that comes back is somebody who's never murdered somebody before? What if they're not on the system? I mean, there's all kinds of possibilities. But in the back of my mind, I also think of somebody that left her there in the parking lot to die. They're gonna be on the system. When they upload it to CODIS, we're gonna get a match. Looking at all the evidence in this case, it's more than we have in a lot of cases. And it's frustrating because the family's still out there hurting and you can't do anything. You're waiting on the lab and you're waiting on leads. So August 6, 2009, I get an email and then a phone call from the GBI crime lab. They say, hey, we got a DNA match. That cigarette butt comes back to a Donald Smith. I got to find out who this guy is. Does he meet my height? Does he meet my weight? Does he meet my age requirements? Does he look like the guy I'm looking at on surveillance video? I'm screaming out to guys over my cubicle, I got a hit. I'm gonna find out if this is the guy. August 6, 2009, I get a phone call from the GBI crime lab. They say, hey, we got a DNA match. That cigarette butt comes back to a Donald Smith. I'm gonna find out if this is the killer.
I do remember one day getting a call from Detective Cruz asking if I knew a guy named Donald Smith, and I was thinking, I don't know him.
And we talked amongst ourselves, is a name significant to you for any particular reason? The answer was no, we don't know who this is.
Understanding that we had received the CODIS that we knew that Donald Smith clearly had been in the system for serious violent felonies. We were able to determine that he had felonies where he had used a weapon before. So we knew that we had the potential for somebody that didn't have qualms about committing a serious violent felony. Donald had violent tendencies.
I was able to isolate a 2009 report out of Atlanta Police Department in which he was involved in a dispute at his job in which he threatened a coworker at Illegal Seafoods. Initially, once I get his name and information, I get a photo of him, and he looks just like the person on the surveillance video. So what I did is I decided to meet with former coworkers, people who worked with Donald, and I allowed them to view the video from the surveillance store. Because I was hoping somebody would recognize him in the video, and I was like, oh yeah, that's Donald. So I reached out, did court order requests for work records. The cell phone that he put on an application came back as a phone that was active in the area at Forest Park where the vehicle was dumped. So I contact Lisa and I tell her, hey, here's all the facts of the case, here's what's going.
Do we have enough probable cause to get a murder warrant for him? Absolutely. We had his DNA at the scene. We had phone numbers that matched in the area of the location that we'd had cell tower hits. We knew that we could put him here.
I got some information regarding him possibly being homeless, so I reached out to several of the local shelters. We get some information pertaining to a shelter that he picks up mail on a certain day. So we spot him in the parking lot, took him down and took him into custody. And so we put him in the car and he's like, what is this about? I want to know what I'm being charged with. And then we told him there was a murder. And he said, I'll talk. He said, I didn't kill nobody, I will talk. And so maybe it was a risk, but I felt I'm going to show him all the evidence that I had, and it's going to be an avalanche.
All right, Mr. Smith, as I just explained before, I got to read you Miranda. Okay, having these rights, do you want to discuss it? I can explain it to you.
Yeah, I would like you to just to explain to me why I'm here.
Okay. Really, it's about this vehicle, okay? I'm going to ask you questions. Have you ever seen this vehicle before or been in it?
No, I have not.
Have you ever met this woman before in your life?
No, I haven't.
I'm not going to just jump in and say, hey, did you kill this person? You know, I need him to confirm. Maybe he knew the victim. And he looks at the photo, he looks right at it, and says, never seen her in my life before. So then I show him the weight of the evidence against him.
That vehicle you said you've never seen before?
Mm-hmm.
And the woman you've never seen before?
Yes.
Okay. Your DNA ended up in that car.
That's interesting because my DNA couldn't have been in that car because I've never been in that car.
Do you see the issue we're up against? You know, I was hoping you said, yeah, I saw her, I used to work with her, we hung out for a minute and that was it, but I left. When I left, she was very much alive. Well, something like that we can somewhat explain away. But when you say you didn't never even seen her before, how the hell did his DNA get in the car if he didn't even know her?
No, I don't know her. Never seen her.
He's kind of just relaxed in the room, but I felt from his mannerisms that he was deceptive. And so I felt, let me show him this video. It's going to be overwhelming how much information we have on this case to point in the correct direction.
I have a picture basically on a computer I want you to look at and let me know if you recognize it as yourself or not, okay?
Sure.
This is the day I'm talking about, what I can do.
Am I with this guy right here?
Yeah. You're saying that's not you?
That is definitely not me. I don't have a shirt like that. I don't care to see the face on that person, but that's not me.
He's like, nope, that's not me. But his phone was active at the scene of this murder.
You work for Legal Seafoods, correct, sir?
Yes, I do.
All right. I got a fax from them, okay? The phone number, okay, that you listed as a contact number, okay, was in communication in that store at the time that person's in the video. Make sense?
And he's like, well, what is this application about? why is this so important? I said, well, the phone number is important because that phone was at the scene of where this murder occurred and where the car was dumped. And so I'm hoping he starts to tell me the truth about everything based on the cell phone records that we had. That puts him in possession of the phone the night of the murder.
And then your cell phone number at the time was 404-200.
Correct?
No, that was not mine. That was my brother's phone number.
Okay, does he live in Gwinnett County?
Yes, he does.
And what's your brother's name, sir?
Ronald. Donald Ronald.
Is he older, younger? Does he live at the same address as your parents? Different
He's
address?
my twin.
Twin?
Yeah.
Like born at the same time or identical? How does that?
Like born at the same time, like identical twins, yeah.
Okay.
This becomes real interesting because, as a matter of fact, DNA is split between 10 twins. It's indistinguishable. They share DNA, identical twins. I've never been in that car.
When he says it, I'm thinking,
DNA is split between identical twins. I've never been in that car.
when he says it, I'm thinking, we knew you had a brother and we thought they were identical twins before the interview began. And honestly, up until that point, everything led us to Donald. The co-workers who had worked with both of them said it's him. I knew there was a criminal history on him, but we didn't really have that criminal history on his brother, Ronald. Then I started wondering if Donald was telling the truth. Which one of the two people is on the video? I know it's one of them. Which one?
You have any explanation for me or Detective Cruz, how would your DNA get in that young lady's car?
If I've never don't know the young lady, never seen her, they would have to be somebody who shares my DNA, obviously.
Conclusion, I'm jumping to what you're saying. If it's somebody shared DNA, then it will have to be either you or your brother.
Obviously.
The DNA mattered, clearly, because that helped lead us to these two brothers. The problem was that it was not going to be that key piece of evidence that makes the difference. We had to have something that we could actually distinguish them with in order to prove our case beyond a reasonable doubt.
Your brother's phone, what color is his phone?
Look, hold on, I'm not going to implicate nobody else in no crime.
You're not implicating, I'm just asking you what color is your brother's phone?
Do you know where he's staying?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I do.
Where is that, sir?
Well, because now I guess he's gonna be the suspect.
No, I need to talk to him.
If your brother did something that stupid, you need to go ahead and just extricate yourself from the whole situation.
You're right. I don't think I need counseling on that. This is a difficult moment.
I understand.
At this point, we don't even know if he's telling the truth. I didn't think two people were involved in the crime because we had witnesses describing one suspect at the scene. And so I'm thinking, is it you? And if it's not, then it's gotta be your brother. And I'm thinking, well, you're telling me you're telling the truth. Would you be willing to take a polygraph?
You mentioned previously that you would do a polygraph. Do you want to just do that?
No, but I want to know, now, when I refuse this test, you gonna go ahead and book me and take me over where you're gonna take me to?
Right now you are charged, you are under arrest. I'll tell you what, I'll just go ahead and give you some time. You want some fresh water?
No.
Once we go outside, I was looking at the stuff he had on his person. He had a pack of cigarettes, but they weren't the Bronson Light Long. So I was looking at all the other evidence we had out there while we were still waiting on him to figure out what he wanted to do.
As a supervisor, you're sitting back and you're watching it through the monitoring room. You'd like to think an innocent person will go forward, because if you didn't do it, you want to clear your name, you want to show, why not take a polygraph? I told the guys, I've seen innocent people in an interrogation room. I'm just getting that vibe. The way he's talking, I said, we may have the wrong guy.
Right down. You got the person downstairs, I guess, to set it up. I just leave it up to you. Would you like to go ahead and take it? Yeah, you there?
Yeah, I don't know. How could I take it?
Okay.
So I'm working outside while the polygraph examiner's doing their job. Detective Merchant completed the polygraph examination. And then the results of that examination that was relayed to me was Donald failed the polygraph test. Now I'm thinking, okay, did he actually do it? Detective Lorenzo and him get done with the polygraph and then comes back in and he goes, Hey, you just told me that he recognized the person on the video as his brother. And I'm like, are you serious? So it's another big twist in this case, but there's some headway now, right? Let's see what he has to say and why he's lying. If he's saying now it's his brother, why did he lie before when we showed him the video and asked him if he recognized the person?
All right, Donald. Now, obviously, when we show you the video before, and at the time, obviously you said it wasn't you. And you had mentioned to me that you felt strongly it was your brother.
Yeah, it's my twin. Now, in light of the fact that I've taken this polygraph, I had no reservations about taking that whatsoever. The lady says that it showed deception, and when she was asking me the questions, the only thing I kept seeing was my brother doing something like that. It's devastating, actually. As if anyone that we know, mother and father, was to see that same video, anybody that we know, would know that that's him and not me. Not only by demeanor, but certainly by dress.
You really want to know, is he trying to put it off on his brother? Or is he now protecting his brother? And he goes as far to say, you can ask anybody who knows us that they'll pick him out. They'll say it's my brother. And I'm thinking, you know what, that's a great idea.
We're not dusting Donald off and saying, hey, we're sorry about this inconvenience. Legally, we were good to arrest him. Collectively, all of us said, this is what we're going to do. If he's the guy, we got the right guy. If he's not the guy, then we're going to use what he told us to build the case on Ronald. We showed the video to Donald's parents and Donald's sister.
It was one of those things where we knew when we got there we were going to kind of have to bluff a little bit and kind of get them to cooperate without realizing they were cooperating. And we told them that either Ronald or Donald had witnessed a crime in the area, and we just couldn't tell which one it was because they're twins.
And all three said that the person in the video was Ronald. We just now have went from one suspect to two suspects.
At this point in time, it's all hands on deck to locate Ronald. Where is he at? Where is he resting his head? Where can we find him? The family didn't say where he was. And so the next morning, that's the first thing we start doing. We start looking to track him down. So I took a calculated risk. They both had a cell phone number that they used. Donald put it on his application. I picked up the phone and I called him. He answered the phone. He told me, yes, he'd be willing to meet me, no problem. Later that day, we set up a time to meet. Right about 30 minutes prior to that meeting time, he calls me back, says, yeah, I'm not gonna be able to make it.
At that time, we all started thinking Ronald might have something to do with this.
We needed to find Ronald as quick as humanly possible.
Immediately when Ronald started saying, nope, I'm not going to be able to make my appointment, it raised a lot of red flags.
I was actually on my way to Atlanta, where Ronald said he was going to meet me, but he said he was not there. He was actually in Gwinnett.
I had told Henley to go out to the parents' house, and he ultimately locates Ronald there.
Detective Cruz had already secured a search warrant for the DNA, bodily fluids, and fingerprints. That was our main reason to take him into custody. And we took him over to the police car and drove him up to headquarters.
We absolutely needed Ronald's fingerprints as well as Donald's fingerprints. That's the one thing that could truly distinguish them. Their DNA is going to be the same, but no two people have the exact same fingerprints, even identical twins.
When I get to headquarters, this is the first time I've actually seen Ronald in person. Take a look at him and realize, wow, he does resemble his brother. I mean, they looked strikingly similar.
All right, Ron.
I think we need to draw some blood or something.
You want him to draw the blood first?
Well,
you tell me what you want to do.
During the conversation, he wanted to know what this was about. So I made the decision, let him see what's going on. Here, let's let him watch the video. We thought your brother was at the Crick trip. This looks like your brother. Watch the video. He watched the video. And we have DNA. And we have fingerprints from the vehicle where the victim was murdered. And that is why we're here today, to get your fingerprints, to eliminate you as a possible suspect. He already knew his brother had been arrested. Ronald is worried about him.
So then my brother can be released?
I want to make sure that the right person is who we're dealing with. If your brother's not, then everything is put into place right now to get him out.
So at this point, we explained until we identify which one of them committed the crime, they're both suspects. I think he realized the weight of the evidence against him and his brother.
And if you look at the video, there's a portion in time where he's just not at the right place to talk to us.
Can you, whatever you're gonna say, could you put it on hold for just a little while?
Why is that?
Just, can you?
So we take a pause.
He wants to take a cigarette break.
Oh, Lord.
So I say, hey, Detective Restrepo, you mind taking him outside, smoke a cigarette?
I remember it very vividly. He took out his cigarettes, and I had seen pictures of the other one. I was like, that's the same Bronson Brandon.
They smoke a cigarette, they come back in. Detective Restrepo slides the cigarette butt up to me. I take a look at the crime scene photo, I'm flipping through my file. Sure enough, I hold it right up to that photograph, and it's an identical match to the cigarette butt that was behind the driver's side seat. My first thing is, let's get these fingerprints before we go back into the interview room. And I want my crime scene tech up here right now.
When we get the call that we have the additional fingerprints for Ronald Smith, then the comparison starts immediately.
Prior to going into the interview room, Brittany gives us some phenomenal news, and she says, hey, the prints that we retrieved from the car were a match to Ronald's prints. Donald's fingerprints don't match to Ronald's prints. Although they have the same DNA, what they wouldn't share are the same fingerprints.
So at this point in time, Ronald's no longer free. He is not going anywhere. His cigarette butt matches up. We've got his fingerprints, but changed from we're giving you information and we need to do search warrants to this is an in-custody interrogation.
So then you go, okay, what do we believe at this point? We got the fingerprints, we have all this evidence, so we felt we got the right guy here. But again, it's always better to get the confession if you can get it.
Without his confession, you just always wonder what happened. And a jury may wonder the same thing, did he do it? We decided to go in there and tell him it was a given fact that you did commit this crime, but we'd like to know why. It can be a risky tactic, because they could just clam up and say, forget you, I didn't do it. But I think knowing the weight of the evidence against him played in our favor.
Now we're gonna turn up the notch, and now we're gonna start hitting you with some facts that you're not gonna be able to dispute. Ronald, this is where we're at. This is it. After we conclude here in the next few minutes, you'll be taken over to the county jail. And the next time that you see Detective Cruz will be in a preliminary hearing. He will present everything that he has on the case, which is overwhelming. When I mean video, the DNA, the prints, the phone records. You say you're not responsible or not. Well, what is it that you're responsible for? What is it?
I don't know what I don't know what to tell you. I really don't.
And was this something accidental? There's something like that I can almost understand.
Most people are gonna wanna minimize the hell out of that incident to tell you, look, it was an accident or something went wrong. And that's what we were doing, minimizing things and getting them to give some details. Ronald, you really don't have a history of harming people. Do you understand that?
I'm just not prepared to give any kind of a statement.
Okay.
I think it was about an hour from when we initially spoke to him. I recall we went back outside, myself and Detective Restrepo, and I remember thinking, identical twins that had known each other their whole lives, almost 50 years, would want to confide in the other to give him some information. We wanted him to speak to Donald in hopes that he would confide in him. He might tell him what happened, why did it happen.
Can you tell me why? I can't tell. I can't.
Basically, Donald goes in there and just asks him, will you tell me what happened, why? Ronald says, I can't tell you. Ronald's not really communicating with Donald. We make the decision to go in and speak with Donald and have him step out of the room.
Donald?
Yes.
Come on out for me, please.
Now I'm thinking, okay, if he's denying it, let's see if we can appeal to the human side of him.
This is the woman, okay? And her name was Janai, okay? She had 3 adopted children. She was a school teacher. Her family They're very religious people, and they were more just wanted to know why than anger. And I promised them I would at least ask.
I can't. That's why I just can't say it right now.
Okay.
Detective Cruz was very diligent in, kind of keeping us abreast as to what they found, and that kept our hopes up. At some point there would be closure.
Once we painted who she was, and you could tell he looked at that picture and he just, oh my God, when he had the picture up, and I was like, oh, it's coming. So at that point, I just felt that chipping away at him, he was gonna break.
Because as far as I know, from when you walked away from that car in Forest Park, I'm sure that you haven't done anything like this. That's just my opinion, but the inevitable is gonna happen. You're either gonna come to trial, and this thing's gonna come in light in front of 12 jurors, or, which in a lot of cases, the judges wanna know why. When people plea, they want to go, why did you do this? Because they demand, and the judges want you to tell the family why their loved one is no longer with them. That's exactly what they want. Those are the two options here. Now, you've been living this for a while, I would imagine. I imagine this thing's been eaten up at you. It has to be.
God, like all of a sudden, this is like all of a sudden on me. And I want to say something. This is like all of a sudden on me. And I want to say something. I'll tell you what. Can I use the bathroom? Okay. Smoke one cigarette.
Okay.
And
we'll come back and talk.
He's about to break. I was like, all right, this is the last cigarette break.
He's outside, he's calm, the air's cool, and I think it got him relaxed. And so we decide to go back into the interview room.
Feel more comfortable over there?
I'm just going to give you your space.
And normally I wouldn't sit there. I'd let him sit in front of the camera, but he just wanted to be there. And he's just sitting there, well, kind of just sitting in the room, and he drops a bombshell.
Guilty. I don't know why. It was an accident.
Inside I'm like, I'm trying to celebrate, but you're also trying to contend with your emotions to keep a good face.
When he said those words, I was like, thank God. At that point, it's just a matter of getting him to give some details.
It was a hair trigger. I set out to take a car. That was something I'd done before when I was way younger. The gun went off. She said, he shot me.
He's still minimizing not taking the car. Really what he's saying is, I'm committing a carjacking. It went off means I shot her. And so now I wanted him to take through not just the steps of what happened in the sequence during the murder, but things that I didn't have answers to that would help solidify the case.
The semi-auto revolver.
It was a 357. I think it was 5 shots. And then I went and sold it before I ended up doing something stupid again. I took the car down to the Forest Park there.
He gave his depiction of why it happened. And, once you have that and you put that evidence in conjunction with the DNA and the photographs and the video, and then him specifying the caliber weapon that was used, he knew details that nobody else would know.
Her family, this was something they really wanted to know as far as closure, okay?
You can tell them that taking someone's life was not in the mix. It was no part of the picture. You can tell them it was a straight accident.
In all my years, I don't know that I've had a person just outright say, I just killed them and I enjoyed it and this is what I did. And I wasn't expecting to get that out of Ronald, but he certainly had some emotion. He showed characters of being remorseful, being sorry for what he did.
Well, thank you. I know that was difficult for you, but I thank you.
So Ronald Smith, on February 6, 2010, was arrested for the murder of Shania Coleman. Because of the admission coupled with all the other evidence, it clearly showed and established that Ronald was the killer and not his brother, Donald.
It was only after we had his fingerprints and his confession that we allowed his brother, Donald, to be released that day. Basically, his guilt is what freed his brother.
If you were trying to typecast the two brothers, Donald is the one you would think had committed this offense because that's the one who had threatened coworkers, who had committed other serious crimes. You would think that's who you're going to lean towards and who you think the evidence is going to take you towards. What was interesting, though, was that the good brother, so to speak, Ronald, was the one who was involved in this murder.
In February, we received a call from Detective Cruz, and he let us know that we have someone we believe is responsible for your sister Jania's death. And we just got together and we just began to rejoice.
It was a hope that finally we were going to get some justice.
The case finally came to trial in October of 2012. The defense attorney called Donald Smith to the stand. Fortunately, he didn't lie. He was adamant, I had nothing to do with this murder. I know that that was difficult because Donald basically was saying, my brother killed this woman. Ultimately, in closing arguments, the defense argued Donald was the one that committed this murder. It was disturbing because not only did Ronald confess to doing this, but now he's gone to trial, he's put all of us through this, and now he's blaming somebody else.
I thought, what family dynamics that you would be at ease in letting your brother go to prison for something that you did. Your twin brother at that. That ain't love.
The jury only deliberated for about 2 hours before they reached a verdict. Ronald Smith was found guilty of all of the charges in the indictment, which included felony murder as well as hijacking a motor vehicle.
The judge sentenced life plus 25 years. And at his age, he's not coming out. This is definitely a once-in-a-lifetime case for me. A murder that takes place where the DNA leads you to the brother who didn't do it. I've never had a case like that in my life, and I haven't had one since.
The greatest strength that I witnessed in the courtroom that day was my mother-in-law. Because when it was over, she went to his mom. His mom apologized to my mother-in-law, and she said, I understand because I lost my daughter and you lost your son.
There are still days when I can hear her laughter. I can hear her talking with me. At this point, I still miss her as my daughter.
After her passing, we were able to launch Jania Excellence Academy because she already had plans of coming home back to Elkhart, Indiana to start a preschool there.
It was a tragedy that she went out, but we refused to allow her memory to remain as such. She was not going to be a tragedy, but she was going to be a success.
For more about Criminal Confessions, go to Oxygen.com.
A person had killed this elderly woman and may kill again.
It was a heinous crime.
We actually used the State Bureau of Investigation criminal profiler.
You got one shot with this guy. I was kind of scared. He's very capable of killing me.
You come in here with this big bad boy attitude.
That was the toughest interview in my career.
But now we have another player in the game.
He was like, you gotta kill this woman. I guess you did it.
I started listening to the jail calls.
This is a matter of the rest of my life.
That call changed the course of the investigation.
It was a 9mm white box.
Sarah was killed with a 9mm handgun.
I ain't never shot a person in my life. Never have, never will.
This is going to be the point where he says, oh crap, they got me.
The question you gotta ask yourself at this point, do I want to leave him?
November 30th, 2007, Alamance County Sheriff's Office received a call to check the well-being of Miss Sarah Dixon. The neighbors that were calling hadn't seen her in a couple of days. Her mail had been stacking up, the newspapers were stacking up in the driveway. The house was immaculate. I mean, it was clean as a pin. Still had vacuum marks in the carpet. So we made our way quietly down the hallway up to her bedroom, and that's where I found this lady unresponsive in the bed. It looked like a gunshot to her face because one of her eyes was discolored. It was obvious that she was deceased, and there was not going to be anything we could do for her. The neighbors identified her as Miss Sarah Dixon.
We started processing the scene and pulled the covers back. We discovered she's shot twice. Once in the left eye and once behind the left ear.
There was no shots in the bed or the wall. They were very carefully placed.
So then we knew we had a homicide.
It was apparent that the French door had been kicked in, and we noticed some footprints across the carpet from the back door.
It looked like somebody broke in her house and shot her while she slept.
There was an autopsy performed, and the medical examiner who advised us that either shot could have been fired from a 9mm gun.
You feel sorry for the family, you feel sorry for her, you feel sorry, son.
Sarah Dixon was a very, very sweet lady, was loved by everyone. She was my dear friend for over 40 years. Sarah and I worked at the bank together. She had more customers than anybody in the whole banking system. I mean, everybody just loved her. She was so good to everybody.
She's a very giving lady, loved her son, her grandchildren. She helped me a lot as I was getting ready to get married, and she looked forward to being there for the day of that. And unfortunately, her life was cut short, and she never did get to my wedding.
I couldn't believe it. I was just devastated. I was devastated. Sarah was married to Cardwell Dixon. They were married for 20 years.
Cardwell Dixon had tremendous assets, 6 figures worth of assets, roughly. And that included a piece of property that they called the farm, about 40 acres. Sarah had saved in her life, but they put that money into building their house.
They were looked at as, you know, a little more on the wealthy side.
Both had been married before and each had children. Cardwell had 2 boys, Dennis and Alan, and Sarah had Mike. When they got married, and it seemed like everyone was happy, they got along very well that I know of.
They were pretty much, you know, happy times for her family until, you know, Cardwell got sick. In 2004, Cardwell had a stroke. He needed round-the-clock care, and Sarah had to make the decision to put him in a nursing home. It definitely put a big financial burden on Sarah. She had to start selling, liquidating, whatever she had to do to make sure he was taken care of.
After the actual crime occurred, I believe that Cardwell Dixon was made aware that Sarah Dixon was dead. But when this happened, Cardwell was in this severely debilitated state, and he wasn't going to get any better.
We knew we needed to interview Mike, Sarah's son. We wanted to find out a little bit about the family. One of the detectives carried him down to the sheriff's office voluntarily for the purpose of an interview. It appeared to us that Mike had really nothing to gain from his mother's death. So, who gains from this?
The main thing we want to talk right now about is what is this whole gist of this problem with the land and the property?
They felt that it was theirs. They were acting like the man was dead.
They being?
The 2 sons. Ever since he's been in a hospital, It's been about them. They want the money now.
Alan and Dennis would gain the most.
Alan and Dennis Dixon were going to inherit Cardwell Dixon's money, property, and 6 figures worth of assets once their father was dead. The stroke really derailed all of that because his inheritance at this point in time was now being spent to care for Cardwell Dixon at a nursing home. Sarah Dixon had sole responsibility for the type of care that Cardwell Dixon received. What it comes down to is if you get rid of Sarah Dixon, Alan and Dennis would have had the ability to take control over how best to care for their father while maintaining the inheritance.
Dennis was always causing mama problems, calling the house, just going off.
Like when he called the house, how often would he call?
Frequently.
She got her number
It
changed.
got to the
She's not
point
listening.
where she went to an unlisted number.
And when he would call, I mean, what would he say?
He would harass her, calling her names. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. I know that for a fact, she really feared for her life.
Dennis and Alan wanted her to take Cardwell out of the nursing home. I knew she couldn't do it, and the doctor knew she couldn't do it.
Dennis had been threatening toward her. I think he hated her for what she was having to do concerning his dad. She was so scared, and she told me, if something ever happens to me, Dennis is the first person to go look at.
Alan Dixon was in another area of the country when this crime occurred, and we felt very confident he was not involved. But Dennis Dixon had a mobile home on that piece of property with Sarah's house on it. So we talked to him.
Dennis had an alibi, and we were able to verify Dennis was at home with his family and his daughter the night it happened.
Dennis was very calm, denied any involvement in Sarah's death. He didn't seem concerned at all that we were looking at him.
We knew he had a strong motive, but to say he has a motive does not translate to a conviction.
There was no evidence we found at the crime scene that he had something to do with this. We knew we had to try to find a 9mm gun that was used to kill Sarah Dixon.
There is no forensics evidence that you can find at that crime scene.
Dennis was a suspect, but we didn't know enough to prove it. This case was frustrating for everybody that was in the detective division at that time.
It bothered me tremendously that a person had killed this elderly woman, was still out there walking the street.
The case went cold for close to 2 years probably.
When the case kind of went cold, that was very difficult. And for us involved went on forever, it seemed like. My friend was gone. I went to the cemetery sometimes. It was just, that was like the closest you could be to her. I had a sense of hate, dislike for whoever had taken my friend. They needed to find out who done this to her.
Alan and Dennis did try to get guardianship of Cardwell, and said that they wanted to move him to Virginia closer to Alan's family. But a judge was told by the doctors, no. But with Sarah gone, instead of selling the property, the whole farm, they could sell Sarah's house, and that paid the bills for several more months. In February of 2009, I was approached and asked to help investigate the Sarah Dixon homicide. I had a lot of experience with death investigations at other agencies. Alamance County is not a county known for having very many homicides, so I probably had seen more dead bodies than most of the deputies that worked at the sheriff's office combined. And I think I could bring something new or fresh to the table.
Sometimes luck and hard work have to be put together to make a case like this.
We had the idea to get the local newspaper to run an article on the Sarah Dixon case.
So at that time, it's, hey, this is a cold case. Does anyone remember anything?
Hopefully that somebody in the public knew something.
We were grasping at straws, and 3 days later, we did get a call. And that call changed the course of the investigation.
I'd be willing to give somebody $5,000 to smoke her ass.
Maybe it was a murder for hire. There was cash withdrawals over the next several days.
13 calls were made on the day of Sarah's murder.
This was a huge turning point in the case.
We made the decision to place an article in the newspaper about the Sarah Dixon homicide. Our hope was to find who killed Sarah. This is a cold case. Does anyone remember anything? And fortunately for us, we got a huge lead with that.
I sat down one day and got the newspaper, and on the front page, there was a picture of Sarah. Voice in my heart said, you gotta go forth. You gotta go tell somebody what you know. It was mixed feelings because it's hard to hold something in for 2 years. But even though I was scared for my life, I knew I had to do what I had to do.
Jamie Blaylock happens to be a friend of Dennis Dixon.
The detective actually came to Ace Speedway where I was working and talked to me that day.
How long have you known Dennis Dixon?
I've probably known him 20 years. We used to do a little racing at Ace Speedway, and we just hung out at the racetrack. Dennis Dixon was very friendly. He had a little car, he raced out there, and I helped him some on it at the racetrack. You know, at Ace Speedway, everybody's friends.
Can you tell me the reason that you contacted the sheriff's office?
It was in April of '07. Me and my acquaintance, T.C. Friday, we went to Dennis's house. T.C. and Dennis knew each other from a long ways back. Thomas Clay Friday, that's his name. Everybody calls him T.C. for short. He was very, very talented. He could work on any kind of motor, he could work on any kind of car.
Sometime during 2007, Dennis, T.C., and Jamie were all together working on a car motor.
T.C. asked Dennis, he said, how's your stepmom? Of course, Dennis gave this awful look and said, I can't stand this woman. Dennis mentioned that his daddy was in bad shape. He wasn't going to get none of the inheritance. He was pretty mad about it.
Hey, do you remember what was said?
Yeah, Dennis said something got to be done. I'd be willing to give somebody $5,000 to smoke her ass. T.C. said, you better watch who you tell that to, because somebody will take you up on it.
That was an aha moment. Bells and whistles are going off. Now I have Dennis and T.C. talking about murder and Sarah Dixon.
This was, in our eyes, a huge turning point in the case.
And what other kind of comments did he make?
I do remember that right before we left the driveway, T.C. was saying little things about $5,000, buy me this and buy me that.
Thomas Clay Friday was a convicted felon. He had robberies, break-ins, assaults, things that really fell in line with a home invasion where someone was killed.
Dennis Dixon had an alibi, so he was not the one that pulled the trigger, but Dennis had a reason.
It was a possibility that he might have hired somebody to do it, and it was a murder for hire.
I was hoping that T.C. would come to his senses because he was usually a jokester anyway. But the demeanor of both of them during that conversation, in the back of my mind, I knew Dennis had hired T.C. to do this.
Have you ever known T.C. to own any weapons?
Yeah, he's got several weapons. I seen one that he bought from a girl.
Do you know what kind?
I want to say there was a 9mm. It was a white box.
Another aha moment. Sarah was killed with a 9mm handgun. Do you know who the girl is that he bought it from?
We called her a little bit. They worked together at Basilio and Grogan Construction Company.
Immediately, I'm calling Basilio and Grogan, trying to find her. Come to find out, her name is Diana Kreiner.
She finally admitted after a lengthy interview, she did have a Makarov 9mm. She had given it to a guy she worked with, Thomas Friday.
Diana Kreiner said that he didn't want the gun to come back to her. So she reported it stolen to the sheriff's office.
We obtained that report, and now we had a make, model, and a serial number of the gun.
It was a 9mm Makarov handgun, and that handgun appeared on the list of weapons that could be the gun that was used to kill Sarah Dixon. And that's my third aha moment, and now they're really starting to pile up.
Now we can put a 9mm in Thomas Friday's hand.
He became a very viable suspect. After receiving the search warrant for Thomas Clay Friday's phone records, we made quite a few startling discoveries. 13 calls were made between Thomas Friday and Dennis Dixon on the day of Sarah's murder.
We discovered there was cash withdrawals by Dennis over the next several days, and when Dennis would make a withdrawal, there would be a phone call between Dennis and Thomas. Thomas Friday would come to Alamance County, close to where the bank was. We tracked him by phone towers.
We were able to show that they were having constant contact, that also money was drawn out, so we knew we had something there.
We finally had enough, and arrest warrants were issued for Dennis Dixon and Thomas Clay Friday for first-degree murder.
We can arrest on probable cause. But that's where the work really begins. It was going to be very vital that we got either Thomas Friday or Dennis Dixon to tell us the truth about what happened, to have enough evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that they committed this crime.
In July of 2009, the Sheriff's Department had probable cause to believe that Dennis Dixon wanted his stepmother dead and recruited Thomas Friday to take care of that and to actually commit the murder. They were both arrested and interviewed, but to get it from probable cause to reasonable doubt for trial was a lot of heavy lifting, because a jury must be entirely convinced of his involvement in the murder of his stepmother.
I attempted to interview Dennis, and he chose to hire an attorney and to not make a statement.
We knew that at the time, if investigators don't get Thomas Friday to talk, we'll have a very hard time proving a case against Dennis Dixon to a jury.
Being that Thomas Friday was a convicted felon, we know he had been through the system. We knew he wasn't going to just say, okay, I did it. We have got to find a way to get him to talk to us. So we turned to the State Bureau of Investigations. They had a criminal profiler. We reached out to him to get a professional opinion.
That gives you the insight of maybe how you approach that individual with what you say and how you say it. We wanted to learn something about him psychologically and use that to our advantage.
This guy's smart enough and he's got enough experience in the criminal justice system that he's going to be trying you. He's going to be working you as much as you're working him in the beginning. First off, the officer attempting to interview the suspect should be the highest ranking officer in the investigation.
If he's going to tell you what he knows, he's going to want to be able to get something for it. And he knows the only person that can do that is the person with the most rank.
Robert Wilburn was the captain of investigations, and I had the most knowledge of the case, and we would have the sheriff himself come in when we needed him.
Don't allow him to deny anything until you have laid out the case and the evidence against him. Every time he starts to tell you, but no, or I didn't do that, hold up your hand in front of him and say, please let me finish. You've got one shot with this guy, and so you want this to be very, very well orchestrated.
So going in that interview room, the pressure was really on.
Sarah Dixon was killed in November 2007. Prior to that, you were in a conversation with Dennis Dixon, another person. At what time he talked about paying somebody to kill her.
The profiler said to lay the crime out, and we did.
We also know that shortly after that, you bought a Makarov. Tell us that.
He done brought the gun up, the Makarov 9mm, and he plays it off as he don't even know what that is.
Just so happens it's the same type of weapon that killed Sarah Dixon. Within a few days of the homicide, you had somebody else report that firearm stolen. I bought and sold
plenty of guns, but it's to make money. It ain't got nothing to do with shooting nobody. I've never aimed a firearm at any human being in my life. I mean, I ain't gonna told you I deal with it. Hold on.
We knew that we couldn't allow Thomas Friday to control the interview. He would try to interrupt us to say, no, wait a minute, that ain't it, and we'd have to shut him back down.
Through your cell phone records and through financial records, we can put you and Dennis Dixon in the same place. When money's being withdrawn, pay for that murder. Now, what we're here to talk about is a murder for hire. Okay? A murder for hire in the state of North Carolina is a capital offense. You understand what that means? That's where we're at right now, Thomas.
Okay, I've never killed anybody.
No matter what we laid out to him, we didn't see a huge change in his demeanor. Now more than ever, it's in our mind that we got to find a way to get him to talk. Let me quote one phrase. I'd pay somebody $5,000 to smoke that bitch. How about that?
No, because
Thomas Friday did react to that.
I'm thinking this is going to be the point where he says, oh crap, they got me.
And was he supposed to say it to me?
You were there. You were part of the conversation.
But it doesn't really appear to faze him very much.
Certain things that stand out, I will remember. Now, I can tell you something else. Now, you want to charge
somebody to smoke that bitch ain't important.
Because first of all, he didn't say that because $5,000 wouldn't be enough for me to point a place for nobody.
I ain't said that.
It never got to a point of me being involved in it. He just said he needed the conversation. He needed the situation taken care of.
That let us know that he was there, if he remembers enough to know what the context of that statement was.
Thomas Friday confirmed what Jamie Blaylock had told us, that in a conversation between Dennis and Thomas Friday, Dennis had made reference to paying someone to kill Sarah. We need to do a little bit more digging.
I'm going to explain this to you one more time, and I want you to listen to me real good, Thomas, okay? We got you. Right now, I'm the one that can help you right now.
You can't help me because I didn't do it.
The question you got to ask yourself at this point, do I want to need them? Yeah, hold on. Him now. It's going to be on the one that done it.
You. It wasn't me. So no, it ain't. Yes, it is.
I press him for answers, and it does kind of shut him down.
He come in here with this big bad boy attitude and roll up on me like this, telling me I didn't do it. You might know that I dealt with Dennis on a lot of occasions. Everything I've dealt with Dennis has pretty much been business. And you say you got conversation us being places. I've been to his job. I've changed his brakes in his parking lot. I've changed the brakes on his girlfriend's car in their parking lot right there where they work there. So yeah, I've dealt with Dennis several places on several occasions. But as far as any money for any shooting, I ain't got nothing to do with that.
I've done what I was told to do by a profiler, but he's still shutting down and he's not giving me anything.
I've never pointed a firearm at any individual on this planet in my life.
At that point, I'm not sure that we're going to get what we need. And we needed that confession.
We ain't got nothing else to talk about.
I remember reading in our local paper that arrest had been made in Sarah's murder, and to find out that her stepson Dennis possibly had something to do with that was of no surprise to me after all the circumstances.
I felt relief when I found out that they had been arrested because I was kind of scared of TC. You know, I told on somebody. Now I got to look out over my shoulder. If TC did do it, then he's very capable of killing me.
He come in here with this big bad boy attitude and roll up on me like this, telling me I didn't do it.
We believed that Dennis Dixon hired Thomas Friday and paid Thomas Friday to commit this murder. But if Thomas refuses to tell us anything or won't talk to us anymore, there is a possibility that they go free at trial because we can't prove the case.
I've never pointed a firearm at any individual on this planet in my life. So if you're going to consist on telling me that I have, we ain't got nothing else to talk about because I haven't.
You get very disappointed when the subject starts to shut down.
The captain and I walk out without that confession.
That was probably the toughest interview in my career.
You don't want to go so hard that you completely shut them down. So sometimes you just give them a break. We were all very hopeful that Thomas Friday was going to spend that night in jail and think about it, and we'll take this up tomorrow. Let's see where we go from there.
So when we talked to the profiler, he told us Thomas Friday, having been in prison before, he knew about the rank structure.
He is going to want to deal with the top dog to help his own self out if he could.
To us, that's going to be the sheriff.
Hey, wake up.
I was told they could not get nothing out of him, and I'll just be honest with you, I wanted a shot at it.
You're going to have a little bit of trust in me. And I know you don't know me that well. There's some things that I think that you know that you could tell us now.
As long as I got DA saying that this is what I got to gain out of it.
Right.
I mean, I'll point you in the right direction.
I'll be willing to talk to the DA. If that's what you want to do, you have to help yourself. You understand what I'm saying? And you can do that. You've got to give me something to take to that district attorney, which means you're going to have to tell me what transpired. And then we'll see what can come from that back to you from the district attorney. All right, let me ask you this. Did Dennis come to you first?
He actually come up with the thing of paying somebody to take care of it.
Did he say the amount? Did he?
The amount was going to be 10 grand.
Dennis was willing to pay someone to kill Sarah.
I did get in touch with an individual, shot a price to him.
Is this really a third suspect?
I did not see that coming.
What kind of price did you shoot him?
I was going to make 2 grand out of the deal. He was going to get 8. So I got in touch with him, set it up.
I think we were all kind of floored. We had no idea at that point that there was anybody else involved in the crime.
He thinks if he didn't pull the trigger, he's not guilty of it. And so he hires this guy to assist him in the crime.
I sort of shut him down and got the other guys in there to take the statement from him, because they knew all the ins and outs of the investigation.
Getting Thomas Friday to talk was everything.
We went out there, I parked down on the dirt road. As he went in, I come in behind him. As I come around the corner, he fired. He pulled the trigger. He turned around, bumped into me. So, I panicked when the shot went off. So I spin him back around off of me. Second shot goes off. By then, I'm out the door. You did go in the room. You saw him shoot her. You bailed after the first shot. That's all straight up. Straight up.
Based on what was observed at the crime scene, we were able to pretty much verify Thomas Friday's story.
We had to keep him talking until we could get him to feel comfortable enough to reveal the identity of the third person.
You're feeling like if I hold his name, I've got an ace in the hole. And I understand how you feel there.
I mean, I've given up everything. That's the only thing that I have. Y'all asked me, and I'm giving up.
He eventually gets to a point where he will not say a name, but he agrees to write a name down. And he writes Matthew Fields. He says he's the one that actually pulled the trigger. Now we have another player in the game. We began running information on Matthew Fields, looking him up. We find out Matthew Fields is about, I think it was 18 or 19 years old. He's a young kid. So we're like, what is the connection to Thomas Friday or Dennis Dixon?
It just so happens that Thomas Friday dates Matthew Fields' mother, Ruth Fields. They actually live on a street where a cell tower is that Thomas Friday's phone hit off of the night of the murder. Bam, ding ding, there's Thomas Friday picking up Matthew Fields, going to commit this murder.
Matthew Fields was located and he was brought in on a warrant.
We needed the details from Matthew Fields so we can get a conviction for him. We needed to corroborate Thomas Friday drug him into a crime and he was being paid to commit the crime by Dennis.
All right, Matthew. I'd like to ask you some questions about a case I'm investigating.
We needed that confession from Matthew.
Put my hands in your hands.
I know that.
Thomas Friday gave us a name of Matthew Fields. We placed him under arrest and he was also interviewed.
My name's Captain Wilbur. This is Lieutenant Jeff Snyder, the Alamance County Sheriff's Department.
Matthew Fields got a criminal record, but he's young, so we didn't feel like he'd had as much experience with the system as Thomas Friday had.
Thomas Clay Friday, we call him Clay. It's my mom's ex-boyfriend.
Okay. Y'all ever sit around talking about hitting a lick?
Hitting a lick, that's committing a crime, robbing somebody.
Me and Clay ain't never did no thing together.
Y'all ain't never done no criminal together?
No.
He knows by this time that Thomas has been arrested, but he don't know what Thomas has told us. He's just trying to not be the one that snitches on anybody.
Look, what we're dealing with is a murder for hire, which means somebody was gonna pay for it, okay?
So what, y'all charging you with murder?
I told you that out there.
I'm saying though.
That wasn't no joke. You asked me what you was out there on the street. I told you that, Matthew. I was straight up with you from the jump.
I got a murder charge for what?
All right, come on, bring it.
I mean, can I get a cigarette I'm talking to?
Hold on a minute. We'll work you a cigarette as you hold that dog.
When he finally trusted us enough, his crutch was a cigarette. He was going to tell us what he had done.
Alright. He was like, I got a way to make some quick money. What'd you tell him? Hell no, I ain't gonna do this. And then, I guess he did it.
I think what Matthew wanted to do was minimize his involvement. I just got to keep digging a little bit.
In the state of North Carolina, this case qualifies for a death penalty case. If you don't do anything to help yourself,
I don't want nobody help. We can't help you without yourself.
That's right.
Helping yourself.
He's realizing he's mixed up in this now. Is he going to tell us exactly how this happened?
It's late one night. Clay come through, me being a dumbass. I'm drinking. I leave with him that night. We go to this house. I'm asking him, what we doing, you know what I'm saying? He ain't telling me shit. It's dark. He got the gun. So we go behind the house, get on the deck. He put the gun in my hand, put a towel around it. And then he hit the door, and when I went in the room, I seen her sleeping. I was like, hell no, I can't do this shit. I'm about to leave. So Clay pushes me, and he grabs the gun with my hand on it. And it hits her in the head, and he pulls the trigger.
It was very consistent with the story that Thomas Friday had told us, other than the difference of who actually pulled the trigger.
You say we'll take you back out there. You say you can show us what that house is.
I see everything.
All right, let me see if I can make those arrangements. Now come up this way.
Matthew Fields was also taken out for a reenactment at the crime scene.
This door right here?
This door.
All right.
She got a nightstand right here. Her bed's right here.
Where's the nightstand at?
Right here.
Okay.
She got jewelry and stuff on it. She laying down. Just like this right here.
In her bed?
In her bed. With some cover on it.
All right.
Each piece of it that he tells us about matched what we knew.
Matthew Fields gave more credibility to Thomas Friday's story and made him a much more believable witness against Mr. Dennis Dixon.
And I'm standing right here. And I'm trying to go this way. And then that's when Clay, he got me. And then he got my arm and he put it to her head. So he took the safety off and he pulled the trigger. And I'm trying to run, but he got me. And then he pulled the trigger again and he let me go. And I took off running.
It didn't matter if he's the one that pulled the trigger or someone else pulled the trigger. He's still guilty of first-degree murder in the state of North Carolina.
And then I ran up that way and he caught up with me.
At this point, we have Dennis Dixon, who set this whole thing up. He's the one that wanted this done. We have Thomas Friday, who helped facilitate it, make it happen, and he enlists the help of Matthew Fields. At this point, we now believe we have everybody involved.
When I found out all three of the guys were in custody, I was just thrilled.
It's just still hard to believe somebody in a family could do something like that.
I thought, you devil. Of course, I called him worse than that. Because down in my heart, I knew he had done it.
Her life was gone. I don't know that I'll ever have peace about it, but I myself just wanted justice, for her.
When we were getting ready to prepare for trial, we wanted to pursue the death penalty on all three cases. But with any capital trial, no matter how bad the murder is, you're not going to get a capital conviction or a capital death sentence unless you have a very strong case. You need to satisfy the jury beyond a reasonable doubt. As to Dennis Dixon, we knew he had a strong motive, and we had many different types of circumstantial evidence. We also had the confessions from Thomas Friday and Matthew Fields, but we don't have the proverbial smoking gun.
We knew going into it, it was going to be an extremely hard case to prove because we did not have a lot of physical evidence.
I started listening to the jail calls from when Thomas and Dennis were arrested. Boy, did I get some shocking information that once again changed the course of the investigation.
Go next door. In the back room on the right, in the computer room, there's a closet. There's a white box that's in that closet. And you have to go somewhere. Please get that done. This is a matter of the rest of my life.
Ding, 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 white box. Diana Kreiner confirmed that she had sold a 9mm Makarov handgun to Thomas Friday in a white box. This could be the gun that was used to kill Sarah Dixon. Fortunately for us, Thomas Friday's friend from the phone call didn't want to go to jail, so he decided to cooperate. And he told us that he had thrown the item into the lake.
We get a dive team to go down, and we searched for several days. And about the third day, the Greensboro dive team located a firearm similar to what we described to them.
We have the serial number from the gun that Diana Kreiner reported stolen, and sure enough, when they bring the gun in, bam, it's the gun.
That's the nail in the coffin. We have the people, we have the gun, we have the motive, we have everything.
At this point in time, we have physical evidence and confessions that link Thomas Friday and Matthew Fields to the murder of Sarah Dixon. But is it enough evidence to successfully make that jury understand the bridge between the murder on that night and the conspiracy and the plot and the intent to commit the murder by Dennis Dixon? Dennis Dixon was priority number one. We needed a conviction for murder.
I wasn't sure that we had enough strong evidence to convict Mr. Dennis Dixon. This was a very, very, very serious, pitiful case, and justice needed to be done to all individuals that are involved in this case.
Thomas Friday never had a trial. He pled straight up. First-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder to avoid the death penalty. He was sentenced to life.
It makes you realize that you don't know people like you think you know them. TC was a great guy. We're best of friends. We hung out every day, 7 days a week, like he was a brother. And I thought I knew him until all this happened.
When Matthew Fields was tried, he testified as they got ready to go in the house, he chickened out. And he was coerced and pushed into that house by Thomas Friday. The defense attorney had Thomas Friday illustrate to the jury how he pushed Matthew Fields. And so he had him step in front of the jury box and with two hands gave him a tremendous shove that sent the lawyer with his feet up in the air. I believe that that had a large role in having Matthew Fields convicted only of conspiracy and not of the murder, because Thomas Friday was found to be by that jury to be somebody who was a domineering, dangerous, and flat-out evil person. So Matthew Fields ended up with a sentence of close to 20 years.
That was disappointing to us. Whether he pulled the trigger or Thomas Friday pulled the trigger, they both were there. They both went in there with the intention of killing this woman. To us, it really didn't matter who pulled the trigger.
We knew that Dennis was going to be tougher because he was going to deny any involvement, and it was going to be up to us to prove he was involved.
We relied on circumstantial evidence, bank records, cell phone records. The only thing that made me nervous at trial was how would Thomas Friday react under cross-examination, because if Thomas Friday collapses, the case could collapse. because if he collapsed, it was really difficult to show Dennis Dixon's intent to have his stepmother killed. But Thomas Friday never wavered, and he stood up to cross-examination for days.
I was called to testify at Dennis Dixon's trial. Matter of fact, he stared at me the whole time. It was nerve-wracking to be on the trial, but it was a heinous crime, and I had to do what I had to do.
Jamie Blaylock was an indispensable part of this case. He provided that necessary bridge between Thomas Friday and Dennis Dixon.
TC took Dennis Dixon's deal and killed Sarah.
The jury on Dennis Dixon deliberated a little over 2 days before reaching a verdict.
That little nerve is in the back of your mind that yes, he could possibly be found not guilty. But because we had solid evidence and witnesses, Dennis Dixon, he was found guilty of solicitation, conspiracy, and first-degree murder. He was also sentenced to life without parole.
And it was a great feeling when justice was served.
It was very gratifying for me to put closure for that family. We done our job and we done the right thing. We put people in prison for taking an elderly woman's life for no reason at all except for greed.
Cardwell Dixon has since passed away. To my knowledge, he never knew about his son's involvement in the murder of Sarah Dixon.
To me, Sarah's legacy is she was a loving wife. She done and cared for, Cardwell especially, down to the end. And just her willingness to help others as she did her whole life. I miss Sarah Dixon for just the genuine person she was.
For more about Criminal Confessions, go to Oxygen.com.
Kim loved life. Her dream was to have a family, but her dream ended up being her nightmare.
Found her, she's in the bed, dead. Oh my God, no, not Kim.
It looked as if somebody had been sleeping on the couch.
There might have been somebody staying in the house with Kim.
The back door at the house had been shattered.
We see her on video withdrawing $420 from her bank account. So what happened to the money?
This is suspicious. And now we have the mystery taxi guy that keeps coming and going at the house.
There was a confrontation. There was a guy named Carl.
Who's Carl? Where did Carl come from?
Bullshit.
The confession was crucial.
Right now, you're blowing spook who spoke up my ass.
Failing was not an option.
Emergency. Yes, this is Brenda Brown. I need the Smyrna Police Department, please.
Okay.
We found her. She's in the bed, dead.
Okay. Don't touch anything?
Please, we come through the back gate and the window was broken and she's laying in the bed. Oh my God, no, not Kim, not Kim. Please hurry.
Listen, they're on their way, okay?
I had not been able to get in touch with Kim for a few days. Kim and I talk usually 2 or 3 times a day. The last time that anybody heard from her was about 2 o'clock on Sunday. And then we found her on Friday. I just went to pieces.
Upon my arrival, the aunt and uncle of the deceased were there. They were very distraught, very upset. They gave positive identification of the deceased as being their niece, Kim Allen. I entered through the front door of the home with other officers. We went into the bedroom where there was a body that was covered up with a blanket.
I did think that at first she was asleep with a blanket on her.
We pulled the blanket down enough to be able to reveal that there was a female lying there.
We noticed immediately that she was laying on the bed in this position, almost like she was clasping her hands and then they kind of fell apart. And we noticed some silver residue on her left wrist and then silver residue on her cheek. Didn't initially know what that was.
The skin on her body was marbling, which gave us the impression that she had probably been there for several days.
But we had noticed there were some superficial cuts in her neck.
And there was bleeding from the eyes, which might be indicative of somebody suffocating or smothering.
The house didn't look like there was any kind of big struggle that took place. It just looked like a home that was lived in.
It looked as if somebody had been sleeping on the couch. I walked into the kitchen. There was a Coke bottle that was tipped over that had tobacco or snuff spit in it. We found out that Miss Allen didn't chew tobacco.
So that kind of indicated that there might have been somebody staying in the house with Kim.
I didn't know if somebody had stayed with her at that particular time. We didn't know anything.
There was a cloth with blood on it in the living room on the couch, but more like maybe you cut your hand or something, not like there was a life-threatening injury that had taken place. On top of that, her phone was nowhere to be found.
But her wallet and her purse were still on scene. However, there wasn't any cash in the wallet.
I observed that a window had actually been broken.
It looked like the back door had been shattered from the inside out because there's a lot more glass outside than there was inside.
There was a lot of questions that you'd have. Was this a random act, or was this somebody who wanted to make it look like a robbery to cover up the actual killing? We're leaning towards it's a homicide investigation.
When the hearse pulled out of the driveway, I just sat down in the middle of the road. I just could not believe it had happened, not to my Kim.
When I see the grief and I feel that coming off of that family, that is what gets me, and Brenda did that to me.
From the day she was born, she was like the daughter I never had.
She had a lot of personality. We called her the selfie queen. She loved taking selfies, and she loved her dogs. They were her babies. Kim was very loving. She thought about others more than she thought about herself most of the time. She always looked for the goodness in people. Even if they weren't necessarily all good, she would find good things, and hopefully she would be able to help them get better.
She was one of a kind. I cried and cried and cried, to be honest with you. I thought Larry had been there.
When Kim and Larry first got together, the world revolved around Larry. Kim wanted a family more than anything. He had 2 daughters, so it was immediate family.
It wasn't long after that they got married.
She was smiling, and he was treating her well, so we were happy for her. You know, at some point their relationship took a turn.
And then we started noticing the bruises.
Her dream was to have a family, but her dream ended up being her nightmare.
We learned then that there was an actual open case against Kim's estranged husband, Larry, and that she had recently testified against him in a domestic assault and a rape.
I think the incident happened right around a year prior. She had actually returned home from a night out with the girls or something. Larry Allen got upset about it.
Larry just did not trust women at all.
Larry started beating her and raped her pretty brutally.
Then he called the ambulance, and at this time, she was bleeding everywhere.
Miss Allen filed a police report accusing Mr. Allen of raping her. There were statements taken and tape recorded from both of the individuals.
I wanted to ask you a few questions, okay? What happened last night?
I just wish he hadn't even called you guys.
You're in bad shape. How did it
all hurts?
What do you remember about any of that?
My husband, Larry, was accusing me of being out doing stuff that I didn't do. And he lost.
He was pretty brutal to her in ways that, as a woman, are just atrocious.
So after they take Kim to the hospital, the police come get Larry and talked with him.
Right now, I need to get your side of the story.
She's at the hospital right now.
She is, yeah.
I want a DNA run on her, showing that some other was up in that tonight and caused all the bleeding and all that stuff. Hoping this will wake her ass up, because I'm done.
We're also going to be charging you with rape. So I want to see if there's anything else you want to say about that before we go on.
That's bullshit. My statement is bullshit.
Listening to Mr. Allen's interview tape, you think, this is evil personified.
Larry had to leave their residence, and we keep waiting for Larry's trial. He was a free man at the time. He was out on bond. So he lived with his mom and dad down the street, just a few houses down. Kim was terrified.
The case was ultimately set for a preliminary hearing. And it took a lot of courage for her to take the witness stand and tell the judge in a courtroom full of people what had happened to her.
Ms. Allen, you know the defendant in this case, obviously Lawrence Eugene Allen, is that correct?
Yes.
Take a deep breath and tell the court what happened.
I mean, he came in and was yelling at me and he hit me several times around the head. And I remember thinking, he just broke my jaw.
It was horrible to know that my Kim had went through so much pain.
After a preliminary hearing in Tennessee, the next step is sometimes as much as 6 months to go to the grand jury.
She was determined that he wasn't going to hurt her ever again. But a week after she went to court, she is deceased. And of course, we thought it was Larry.
First thing that comes to mind for me was that Larry might have come and taken some retaliation out on her after the testimony she gave in court at the preliminary hearing. Because he had the motivation to do it, Larry was facing 15 to 20 years if he was convicted of doing the aggravated domestic.
We knew that Larry had access to that house, even though he was court ordered to be away from there and should not have been there. At that point, we have a clear suspect. We needed to find him and we needed to talk to him.
He's just not really making any effort to come forward.
We're thinking this is suspicious.
And then a couple of people saw a guy here leaving in a taxi.
He was screaming that, "I'll kill us both."
He said he had witnessed something horrible.
When you saw her Monday, was she alive?
This might be our big break. Kim Allen was found deceased in her bedroom. She had recently separated from her husband, Lawrence Allen. Kim actually testified against Larry the week prior in a preliminary hearing. The case had been bound over to the grand jury because he had raped her pretty brutally. So he may be a viable suspect in this homicide.
His parents actually lived just a few houses down the road from Kim, and they came up to the scene to check and see what was going on. They told us that Larry was living on a houseboat. They didn't know where it was. They said that he dropped his work truck and trailer off on Friday of last week, and they had not seen him since then. We've got people that are attempting to find out where the houseboat may be that Larry's on. We know that he's been communicating with the family. They've told him that Kim is deceased, and he's just not really making any effort to come forward and tell us what he knows.
The fact that Mr. Allen is missing, you start thinking this is suspicious, this is very much suspicious.
I just knew. We all knew. It was Larry. She was just finding her footing. And she was trying to focus on things like bettering herself or going to school. And she was just starting to come into who she was as a woman. And the world missed out on what her potential might be.
In her home office, she had posters and writings reminding her that she was somebody important. She was really making a huge effort to remind herself that she was better than what she had been treated. I remember praying that I would get the strength to get closure for her family and get justice for Kim, because she did not deserve what happened to her. It felt like the clock was ticking, and we needed to hurry up and find out what had happened to her and who was responsible.
We need to find out as close as possible the last time that she was seen alive, and then build a timeline to the time that we found her.
At this point, we had people out trying to locate Larry, but then at the same time, you've got officers and detectives talking to just about everybody in the neighborhood to see what they've seen.
We had a couple of people that said, well, we saw a guy here on and off during the week leaving in a taxi.
And so we said, hey, can you describe the person? Have you seen that person there before? And they say they never seen him before.
And he did not meet the description of Larry. He was kind of scraggly.
Thin white male, wearing blue jeans, a t-shirt, and a baseball cap.
So we had Mr. Allen, who we had on our radar, and now we have the mystery taxi guy that keeps coming and going at the house.
If she was in a new relationship, all of her friends would know. We didn't know about this guy that is staying at her house.
We absolutely have to figure out who this is.
So we kind of transitioned into looking for digital evidence. We did a subpoena for Kim's banking information, trying to see when the last time her banking card has been used.
We find that she had been to a corner market and she had made a cash withdrawal from an ATM. And we were able to get video that Sunday when we see her on video, withdrawing $420 from her bank account. We learned was the last time that anybody had seen her. Earlier in the day, the video from the corner market showed a slight portion of the parking lot, and you could see a vehicle that was the color of Kim's, and a white male gets out of the passenger side. He comes into the store and he buys a case of beer and some cigarettes, and he uses her card. And when we got the transaction slip from it, he just signed it Kim and got back in the passenger side of the vehicle, and you can see it drive away. So there is a great possibility that the person that's on this video knows something.
Also, he matches a description of the mysterious taxi guy.
This guy has been in her life probably more recently than anybody else. We need to find him.
The next big thing was we got a cell phone that's missing. So we did a subpoena for the information for the cell phone to see when's the last phone call.
The last call that was made was to Stacy Merritt. And she told us that her brother, Eric Ellis, had called her from that number. Detective Neighbors and I went to go speak with her almost immediately to see what she could tell us about where he was and why he had that phone. We were speaking with Stacy, and she identified the person in the video using Kim's bank card as her brother Eric.
And then she told us a little bit about Eric. He had a problem keeping a job. She also told us that Kim met him at one of the bars, and that she offered him a place to stay for a couple of weeks until he could get a job and get on his feet.
And I think that inviting him into the home was just kind of a natural thing for her.
Just to kind of help that young man out.
Eric's sister seemed a bit on edge, and when Detective Neighbors and I told her that we were investigating a possible homicide, oh no, shock was written all over her. And then she tells us, well, Eric says that he had witnessed something horrible in the last week, and he couldn't tell me about it. And then I took him to the rescue mission, and that's where he is now. The first thing we thought of was, what can he tell us? We need to get to him to find out what he saw.
Kim had been murdered after she took the stand to testify against her husband, Larry.
She was afraid of testifying I think Kim wanted everybody to think she was okay. Kim wanted everybody to think she was strong and she was moving on with life. She knew that Larry could get to her, and she was terrified.
I don't know how you can get anybody more on your radar based off of their history. And then we have this unknown white male that was coming back and forth in the house. We now have identified Eric Ellis, and so we had to eliminate somebody.
Stacy Merritt told us that her brother, Eric Ellis, had been staying on and off with Kim, and so we wanted to talk to Eric first because it seemed an easier elimination. He may be able to give us some fuel that we can use to pin Larry down. Stacy had taken Eric to the rescue mission in Nashville, so we decided that we would take off and go to Nashville, make contact with him, and see what he could tell us.
Once we arrived at the mission, he was standing out behind the building. He just stuck out his hand and said, nice to meet you. Didn't ask questions why we were there or why we were looking for him. We can already confirm he is in fact with her in the video from the corner market.
We were really wanting to see what kind of information he could provide us. We ended up telling him that Kim had passed, and he was, okay, yeah, I'll talk to you.
Both of us kind of had the same impression that maybe he doesn't really know anything. He's kind of nonchalant about coming back to the police department and talking about Miss Allen.
At that point, he was considered strictly a witness. And we put him in one of the interview rooms and just kind of took a moment to watch him and see what his demeanor might be.
During that initial time in the interview room, he's comfortable chewing tobacco. And I'm thinking about the bottle that has the tobacco in it at the crime scene itself. That might have indicated that he had been staying at the residence. So his story appeared to be honest and truthful at that point.
Okay, sorry about that.
No, you're fine.
Okay.
I'm kind of stepping in and doing the interview and interrogation for Detective Gossett. That frees her up. If I missed something that should have been asked that wasn't, she's very quick to be able to step in there. We start questioning him, basically just letting Mr. Ellis tell us a story about his time with Miss Allen.
I haven't known her that long. She was pretty cool, nice person.
Mm-hmm.
She opened up to me and I opened up to her. She had been real nervous. She just kept mentioning Larry.
He said that Kim had been upset because of the testimony against Larry. She was afraid that there might be some type of retaliation because Larry was looking at spending up to 20 years in prison for that violent attack on her.
She had told me some prior incidents where she was at a bar where he drug her out by the back of her hair. He was screaming that, "I'll kill us both."
So in the back of your mind, you have that name, Larry Allen, but you don't want tunnel vision.
I don't know if he physically did anything to her recently, or she's had a run into him.
Let me clarify again real quick just what I want, okay? From Friday night, from the time you met up with Kim, okay? Through today when you talked to us.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Friday night, definitely drinking. I know we went back to her place.
Okay.
And I went to sleep on the couch because that's normally where I slept at. Saturday, we've been to Nashville. We bar hopped a little bit. She did say that she was going to meet up with a friend of hers that she knew for a while. I know it was a guy, but I don't know his name, never got it. I left from her, pretty much just roamed around all night. So I figured she did meet up with like whoever she was talking about. And I haven't seen her since after that, all of that.
But we got great video from the convenience store showing him using her car the next day.
I'm kind of soaking in everything that he's telling me to eventually question him on any inconsistencies.
She probably did meet up with that person.
Good.
And they either stayed downtown or they went back to their place.
Okay, so Saturday night you didn't come back to her place at all?
No,
You stayed in Nashville?
No, sir.
He's not telling me the truth.
Why is he not going directly to the answer of this? That's kind of started ringing some bells too, that maybe he just wasn't wanting to tell us everything.
You know what, enough's enough. So I kind of get a little more assertive at that time.
So you haven't seen her since Saturday? So how were you in her car in Smyrna at 11:09 a.m. on Sunday?
On Sunday?
Mm-hmm.
I don't recall being in her car on Sunday.
You recall going to the store and using her credit card?
Yes, that's when I told you when she, yes,
On
I'm
Sunday?
sorry. Yes, sorry. That's when, I came back down here for a little bit and then I remember that. I forgot about that and I'm sorry. I'm not lying to you.
One of the things that I noticed is the amount of detail that he's telling me, as long as he wants to recall it. He kind of got that screwed kind of look. And what do I say now?
I'm a little freaked out because one, I didn't do nothing wrong. But right now, you're telling me a lot of. I know. I'm trying to remember everything.
He knows way more than he's telling us. Maybe Eric had witnessed some type of retaliation from Larry.
Now, if something happened and you were at the house and a mistake happened, then that's what we need to know. We can deal with mistakes. But somebody that's going to lie to us about them, that tells us that somebody's trying to hide something. Okay, I'll tell you. Okay, tell me.
Let's start over from Saturday.
We had the aha moment. This might be our big break. He's going to tell us what happened and how it happened.
So I walked back down towards Second.
When we're interviewing Eric about Kim's death, his story started to change.
So you haven't seen her since Saturday? I haven't seen her since.
Eric's sister received a call from him basically stating that he had witnessed something horrible while he was staying with Kimberly. Our primary focus was Larry, her ex-husband. They had just been to court on that the week prior. They found Kimberly deceased.
We're thinking he's going to tell us that he saw Larry killing her.
It was a screaming battle. It was a guy named Carl. I want to say it was Miller. Carl Miller. I know Larry didn't do anything.
Who's Carl? Where did Carl come from?
I don't know how she knows him. They were just screaming and yelling at each other. Like Sunday, Monday morning, like early morning. He just told me, get the out of there. I called the taxi and I left.
It kind of started looking like maybe Eric Ellis might have been a little more involved than what we thought that he would have been. So now we had to find Carl.
I knew probably something bad had happened, but I didn't know what.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you this one time.
Yes,
okay?
go ahead.
And I want you to be perfectly honest with me. When you saw her Monday, before you left there, was she alive? Don't lie to me either.
I know she was drugged up. He was crushing some type of pills. I seen a resident on a counter. I watched him put the powder in a cup.
Okay.
And then I watched him put Diet Dr. Pepper on top of it.
Eric was just giving great details about the crime scene, and we had our crime scene techs at Kim's house, and they were texting us back and forth as we were interviewing him.
They relayed to us the information about pills being crushed and put in her drinks. A lot of prescription bottles were located, and we did find pill residue crushed up on the kitchen counter.
And so you get them to tell you a story, and then hopefully you just get them talking and making these certain admissions.
I got scared. I called the taxi.
How'd you call the taxi?
She had given me her cell phone to hold on to.
Okay. So what'd you do with her phone?
After I got rid of it because I didn't know what the hell was going on.
A common technique that we use is called identify and verify. Mr. Ellis's story just wasn't making logical sense. Detective Neighbors is catching those inconsistencies. And so what you do is you wait and then you go back and clear up that inconsistency.
Well, I gotta be honest with you. It's still bugging me that you take her phone and just decide to throw it away. Because if you don't know that she's dead, you're not gonna take your friend's phone and throw it in the trash because she's gonna want her phone back.
I threw it away in the trash can.
Where?
Downtown.
When he tossed her phone in the trash, he probably knows at the very least that she was dead.
At that time, honestly, speaking truthfully to you, I didn't know she was dead then.
When somebody uses a phrase like truthfully, honestly, or says I swear on the Bible, that usually tells me that they're lying. I'm wondering if he's concocting the Carl Miller story. So I kind of get a little more assertive at that time, more of a in-your-face approach, hoping that would level him with us on what actually happened.
Sometimes some things happen, okay? Some things are accidents, okay? If you were there, y'all were having sex, you were getting drunk, you were getting stoned, she died, then that's what we need to know, okay?
I just knew that he told me I need to leave, and I left. Honestly, that's what I did.
Okay.
And I left.
At this point, I'm thinking about taking a break and just getting out of the room for a minute.
Give us a couple of minutes and we'll be back in and talk to you again, okay?
I need to go try to find Carl Miller if he exists. So I run through dispatch, I go back to the databases that we have, and I look for Carl Miller. There is none, just doesn't exist.
Often in interviews, what you'll have is somebody that will start deflecting. And by deflecting, what they will do is they will bring in a made-up person. And what they do is they start almost living through that person. They will say, this person did it. And really, it's just a defense mechanism that we have.
We need to dig a little deeper, as into why he's trying to divert to Carl.
Okay. I'm gonna try this one more time, okay? And I'm gonna give you a chance to be honest with me, okay? This third person bullshit is bullshit. That's all it is, bullshit. There is no Carl Miller in Smyrna or Rutherford County. You're gonna have to start being honest with me
I'm being
because
honest right now.
no, you're not. You keep blowing smoke up my butt.
But I'm being honest with you. I'm freaking the out because I did not kill this woman. I didn't poison this woman. I didn't do shit.
You and her, the only two in the house at that time.
At that time, yes.
Okay.
Eric admitted to being alone in the house with Kim. When we start getting those little pieces, it's just, it might be a small thing, but those start adding up.
At this point, we confront him with the ATM video.
So you were there Sunday night, correct? Correct. Okay. Whose picture are we gonna see at the ATM at night, that night?
On which night?
Sunday night.
Sunday night.
Mm-hmm.
The only person that we could see in that car was Kim. But we were pretty sure that from the timeline that we had so far that he had been with her.
But it could be that Eric was in the back seat, but it didn't show him.
I'll be honest with you. She went to the ATM and got the cash out. I think it was like $420 or something like that. I was with her when she went to the bank.
There wasn't any cash that we found in the house. So what happened to the money?
I decided to ask him what he was holding to her throat when they went to the bank. I thought that Eric had taken the $420.
What were you holding to her neck?
Oh, nothing.
At the back.
We knew that there was that stab wound in her neck.
Oh, that's, yeah, that's what she had. I went home.
Come on.
I didn't have no knife or nothing.
It was enough to shake him. Just kind of out of the blue, he says, I didn't hold that knife to her throat. Wow. What are you gonna tell us?
You were with her when she went to the bank, right?
Yes, sir.
And she got the money out, okay? What were you holding to her neck?
I went home.
Come on.
I didn't have no knife or nothing.
At this point in the interview, we realized that he's just going to tell us one deceptive story after another. So I'm going to try to push him over the edge to actually tell the whole story.
As we're trying to pull the story about the knife and the ATM stuff out, he had been wanting some water.
We decided that Detective Anderson is going to come in the room, bring Mr. Ellis a glass of water, and say it was a match.
Come on, be honest with me now.
I am thinking.
No?
Hey, it's a match.
The hope was that he would think that we had retrieved the knife and were able to match DNA to her.
Okay, you want to try this again?
She asked me, I didn't cut her, she asked me to hold it, and I did.
She asked you to hold what?
She gave me a knife.
Okay. She tell you to hold it up to her neck?
I didn't hold it to her neck, I just kind of held it like this.
What? Nobody wants you to hold a knife to their throat and take you to the bank.
She said, I'm gonna loan you $40, and she took out $420. And I didn't need $400.
So you took $420 from her?
You go to the bank and Kimberly draws $420. However, there's no money left in Kimberly Allen's purse.
Boom, then robbery's a motive. So let's start building on it.
When we set out to talk with Eric, we were kind of anticipating that he may have information that would lead us more to Larry. And instead, Eric turned out to be our suspect.
Let me tell you something, okay? Right now, you're blowing buku spoke up my ass, okay?
So I finally get a little bit agitated, kind of get in his face.
Now, if you want to keep this story up, we can play all night long. But we all know what happened, don't we?
Honestly, truth, I was so up drunk, I don't remember. There was a struggle when we got back, not like a fight.
Between you and her?
She was stumbling, and I went to catch her when I did, and it stuck in, and I freaked the out.
What'd you do with the knife?
I threw it away.
Where?
Downtown.
Where?
In the parking garage.
He told me that the knife was in the trash can at the bottom of the stairwell on the blue level of that parking garage at the Hilton.
We were able to recover actually 2 knives. One of them, we were able to match other knives that were in a butcher block from the house.
Okay, at this point, we know that this is probably our guy.
I'm thinking Eric Ellis was the person that committed this homicide.
After she fell on it, I got a towel to hold it right there. And I said, Kim, I'm so sorry. I said, I don't know what the hell I'm thinking. And I don't remember a whole lot because I had blacked out. Not like blacked out, because I did. And I know I'm going to jail. Am I right?
He's given me bits and pieces of information. Bits and pieces about how she fell on the knife and nicked herself. Bits and pieces about the drugs that were put in the cup that she drank that night. When it comes time to go to trial, if the jury hears a bunch of circumstantial evidence, and if you still got another suspect or person of interest like Larry Allen, who has just committed this violent crime against the same person, there's that reasonable doubt in the jury's mind. We needed to get the confession. But at this point, I'm frustrated, getting nowhere with the interview, so I decided to leave the room.
I should have never done this. All right, give me a minute.
I feel pressured to get the confession and make sure that it's done the right way so that it's a prosecutable case.
The detectives told me, we will call you as soon as we have someone in custody. They said, we will have this settled by the end of the night.
I wanted so badly to do right by her and to get that closure.
Hey, buddy, come here for a second. Just leave all that stuff right there.
We were going to collect his clothing to see if there was trace evidence. So myself and another detective gave him what's called a Tyvek suit, which is a white, like hazmat suit. I was very polite to him. Yes, sir. No, sir. I'm sorry. I apologized to him for not being able to call his family. And he said, can I talk to you? I had no intentions of doing a secondary interview with him, but if somebody is wanting to talk to you, never shut down that interview.
I never would. Oh, I don't doubt that one bit, Hans. I don't doubt that one bit, okay? I really don't.
I just wanted to be empathetic for him. And I knew that his family was very, very important to him.
And I can see in your eyes, you love your family. You love your sister very much. And I bet you $5 right now that you're ashamed. And you're ashamed about bringing this upon him, aren't you? Right?
Yes.
Okay, let me tell you something. There's no old saying, truth will set you free.
He's starting to cry a little bit. He's starting to show a little bit of emotion. He's getting backed further and further into that corner. And of course, everybody's scooting up to the edge of their seat, just waiting.
Told me I'm a drunk ass boy, this and this and that. For some damn reason I went in the kitchen. And I grabbed my knife, I don't know why. Can I just touch your neck and show you? And I stuck her in the neck. And I realized what I was doing somehow in hell. I dropped it. Then she asked me to give her some of the medicine to help her. So I gave her way too much.
Did you crush it up and put it in a drink?
Yeah, I thought that it would help ease the pain. And then she passed away.
I don't think that's the whole story. I got a text saying, ask him about the duct tape. We still had crime scene, people processing the scene at the house.
We did find duct tape, plastic bags, and hair stuck to the duct tape in a couple different locations inside the house.
When they found this duct tape, part of it was formed in the shape of handcuffs.
And so we began to piece together that the lines on her wrist looked like excess adhesive from duct tape.
All right, just a couple questions. What'd you do with the duct tape? What did you use the duct tape for?
It fell in her hands.
Is she dead when you put the duct tape on?
But I did that after she had passed away.
He minimizes it by saying, I put it on her once she was already dead.
I think he is wanting to tell the truth, but he's not wanting to come out and say, yes, I killed her.
So she had duct tape on her hands. What else did you put duct tape on? Mouth. You put it across her mouth?
Yes. And I think I did on her eyes.
Did you put it across her nose?
I want to say yes.
Now we've got possible suffocation. And so I asked him about that. This was going to be a very difficult question because he still can't come to grips that he did the actual killing.
I'm going to ask you the hardest question I've ever going to ask a person, okay? And this is a you to me, okay?
This is the real deal. We need a confession for the success of this case.
And I just want you to give me a plain, straight up, honest answer, okay? Did you choke her?
He finally tells us what he did to her. And I did not expect him to do something even worse.
Did you choke her? I didn't choke her. What happened was after she was already gone, and I wanted to make it look like a break in.
Eric finally started confessing and telling Captain Spearman what he did.
I put duct tape around the neck to wear the bag on it. Put a bag over her head. Yes. And then you put duct tape around the neck. And she was only gone. Okay. How did you know she passed away? She was making some type of noise. It sounded like a snore almost. Mm-hmm.
This confession was actually giving us the manner of death, suffocating her by putting duct tape over her and the bag and stuff, with her being as heavily medicated as she was.
I just snapped. Okay. And I didn't realize what I was doing until afterwards. Okay. Let me clear up just a little bit, okay? I think you're ashamed of what happened at the bank. But what happened is what happened at the bank kind of led to the rest of the evening. Yes, sir. Am I pretty close with that? Yes. No, you're not close. You're right, sir.
Was he intending to kill her after he took the money? I don't know, but I think after he put that stab wound in her neck, he thought at that point there was no returning.
You crushed the pills, put them in a cup. She drank some more. She started to get sleepy. You carried her to the bed. You went back into the living room. And then she was making those noises. You went back into the bedroom. Put a plastic bag over her head. And then duct taped the plastic bag.
That, for me, says he intended to kill her. Why else would you tape a bag around somebody's head?
After he had figured out that she was dead, he went and busted out the window in the kitchen to make it look like the house had been burglarized.
I wanted to make it look like a break-in.
He then told us that he had actually driven her car around for a couple of days and had come back to the residence a couple of times to stay the night, even though Kimberly Allen was deceased in her master bedroom.
I believe there's a certain level of panic and remorse that he went through.
I feel very bad. Oh, I do. I know you do. I know you do. I really do. You don't understand. I feel really bad. I can see it. I can see it in your eyes, okay? It's okay. It's all right. All right. Let's come on back in here and we'll do what we got to do. All right?
And that's what it's about, getting that confession. And we were able to have a resolution and have this person in jail in remarkably quick time.
The findings from the medical examiner were right on point with everything that Eric had told us, from the overdose to suffocating her to the stab wound in her neck.
That kind of takes all that reasonable doubt away from what a jury could think when it goes to trial.
After the confession, we were able to clear Larry Allen just by his alibi. He was out of town and had some witnesses that were able to confirm where he was at. The sad fact about it is you had Larry Allen out there who was a lot more violent.
I believe that the motive in this case is what it usually is in so many cases of murder, and that's greed. Obviously, if you pull a knife on somebody and you take them to an ATM, you're trying to get money from them. And he took the $420 from her and then used it to buy cigarettes and beer. What a waste of a person's life.
Today, the man accused in her death faced a judge.
An acquaintance of Allen, Eric Ellis, allegedly murdered the 45-year-old at her home on Branch Trail in Smyrna back in March. Police tell News 2 he apparently confessed to the crime.
Eric had asked to plead guilty, so that was a huge surprise. It was unbelievable.
Mr. Ellis is currently serving life with parole. I think he absolutely got what he deserved.
For me personally, this case in particular just kind of was worse than others, just because of what she had been through before.
Days before she was killed, she testified in a preliminary hearing in another case where she was the victim.
She survived a cruel form of domestic assault and rape in June of last year.
Her estranged husband, Lawrence Eugene Allen, was arrested and charged in that case.
We were satisfied that Eric wasn't going to really see the light of day anytime soon. But we were still focused on the fact that Larry still had not gone to trial. Our biggest fear was that Larry would somehow get off now that she's not here.
After reviewing the preliminary hearing tape and listening to her testimony, we decided this was a case that should go forward. It is very unusual to not have your victim in a rape case. We were able to use her preliminary hearing testimony, and we were able to play that tape. It was as if she was testifying from the grave and basically asking the jurors, give me justice. And the justice system worked.
Larry Allen was sentenced to serve 21 years for those crimes against Kim.
If telling her story helps one person either to stop the cycle of abuse or to prevent this kind of tragedy or to even just get through it, then to me, that's now her legacy.
I love my Kim. Everybody will remember Kim for who she was. She loved life and she loved trying to help people. She'll never be forgotten.
For more about Criminal Confessions, go to Oxygen.com.